On the evening of May 6, 2013, Tim Bosma was headed home to meet someone who had called him about going for a test drive. Tim, a 32-year-old Canadian from Ancaster, a small community within the city of Hamilton, Ontario, had arranged a test drive for a Dodge Ram pickup truck he had been selling online on Kijiji. Tim arranged a test drive for that evening of May 6th. However, with the sun about to set, the prospective buyers were yet to arrive. At about 9:20 p.m., two men arrived to Tim's house on foot. They were the prospective buyers and had come for the test drive of the truck. It was very strange that they had walked to the house, claiming they had been dropped off by a friend, and the Bosmas felt a little unsettled, but they shaked it off. It also seemed an odd time to arrive for a test drive, and Tim, a bit uncomfortable, asked his wife Charlene if he should still accompany the men for the test drive since they came so late. His wife, not believing that anything could go wrong, said yes, and the men climbed into the truck and drove off, with Tim assuring his wife he would be back in no time. That was the last time Charlene would see Tim again. At 10:20 p.m., exactly 1 hour after Tim had left, Charlene called his phone, and it went straight to voicemail. Charlene became worried because she knew that Tim had charged his phone when he got home from work, so she dialed 911 and reported what had happened to the police, but by morning, Tim was still not home. On May 7th, Mike Holton, a close friend of Tim's, was driving past the Bosma's house when he noticed that a cop car was in their driveway. He felt it was odd, so he pulled over to find out what was going on. He was shocked to hear that Tim was missing. He immediately rounded up friends and family, and they began a search for Tim. On Wednesday, May 8th, the Hamilton police announced that what was considered a missing persons report would take a new turn, as it would now be handled by murder investigators. The next day, Charlene Bosma made an appeal publicly. It was directed to the men who had taken her husband. In her appeal, she said, "My husband Tim is a loving father to our beautiful 2-year-old girl, and she needs her daddy back. His parents need their little boy back, and all of our brothers and sisters want their brother back, and I beg, and I plead to whomever has my husband to please let him go. Please drop him off somewhere or make an anonymous call to the police, so we know where to find him. It was just a truck, it's just a truck." Several days later, Charlene got a phone call. The name of the caller said Tim, and for a moment Charlene felt that it was all over, but the person at the other end of the line was not Tim. It was someone who had found his phone in the grass next to an industrial park. At that time, the Hamilton police had already recovered the call records for Tim's phone, and it pointed them to someone in Torridou who was also selling a Dodge Ram truck online, and who had also recently given test drives to prospective buyers, which seemed very much like the two men who Tim Bosma was last seen with. This led the police to begin a manhunt for a suspect, Dellen Millard. Dellen Millard was born on August 30, 1985, to Wayne Millard and Madeline Burns. Wayne was a pilot who had worked at both Air Canada and Millard Air, an aviation firm founded by his father, Carl. Burns was a flight attendant at Air Canada when they met. Millard grew up in Toronto, Ontario, the only child of his wealthy parents. In 1999, at age 14, Millard set a world record for the youngest person to fly both a helicopter and a fixed-wing plane solo on the same day. Millard owned several properties in the Toronto area, including a $1.2 million home in Etobicoke, a $500,000 condominium in an unspecified location, a $2 million residential rental property, and a $850,000 100-acre farm in Ayr. In May 2013, he finalized the purchase of a $627,000 condo in Toronto's Distillery District. By his 20s, Millard's life as a promising aviator took a different turn. He dropped out of the university, became a party boy, a drinker, and started doing drugs. He went as far as producing pornography, and this attracted different people eager to help, and this included Mark Smitch. Smitch was born on August 13, 1987. Unlike Millard's parents, Smitch's parents were middle class. He had a criminal record involving petty offenses such as drug possession, driving impaired, mischief, failure to appear, and breach of conditions. Smitch sold drugs and cigarettes for a living and occasionally worked odd jobs in Millard's hangar. Millard began to arrange for Smitch and other friends to accompany him on what he termed missions, nighttime excursions to steal items such as construction equipment, lawnmowers, and even trees. A friend later described these missions as being strictly for the thrill of it, as Millard had more than enough money to have purchased such things if he had wanted to. In 2013, at the age of 27, Millard took over the family business. He was obsessed with getting a heavy-duty pickup truck like the one Tim Bosma advertised. This was why he appeared on the Bosma's driveway on the evening of May 6, 2013, for the test drive. From CCTV footage obtained from security cameras, it shows that after Tim, Millard, and Smitch drove off from the driveway, the Dodge Ram truck was followed by a dark SUV. Half an hour later, the truck stops near Bradford, Ontario, where they changed the vehicle's license plate. At this point, it is believed that Tim may have already been shot to death. Over 2 hours later, they arrive at the Millard Air hangar with the truck towing a trailer carrying a piece of large equipment. They walk into the hangar on foot. Shortly after, a fire would erupt in the equipment and would burn all night. The next morning, Millard Air staff would get a mysterious text message from Dellen Millard, ordering them to stay away from the hangar that day. The next day, Art Jennings, a man who had been working at the Millard hangar for a couple of months, arrived work and saw a black Dodge Ram pickup, like the one described in news report about the disappearance of Tim Bosma. He immediately got suspicious and the next day, took a photo of the truck and the vehicle identification number, which he sent to the police and which was later confirmed to be Tim Bosma's truck. Millard was arrested soon afterwards, with Tim Bosma's truck keys still in his possession, but because Bosma was still missing, there was no murder charge. Acting on a tip-off, the police visited Millard's mother's house. There they found a large vehicle trailer. Inside was Bosma black Dodge Ram pickup in which there was a shell casing, gunshot residue, and Dellen Millard's fingerprints. An infrared lumina treatment exposed blood stains that attempts had been made to clean. Later on, police would find a large industrial incinerator, known as the Eliminator, designed to dispose off dead animals in a clearing near Dellen Millard's rural property outside Ayr, Ontario. Inside, forensic anthropologists found the charred remains of Tim Bosma. The horrifying news was broken to Charlene over a week after Bosma's disappearance, and addressing the public the next morning, she said, "Yesterday was the most horrifying day of my life, and people tell me I have been so strong, and all I know is that I have a beautiful 2-year-old girl at home who now needs her mummy more than ever, and needs her mummy to hold it together. I know that I cannot fall apart, but I am broken, because a part of me is gone," she said heartbreakingly. Millard and Smitch were charged with first-degree murder. Millard was also charged with the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Laura Babcock, and his father Wayne Millard, who had been found dead with a gunshot through the eye and whose death was initially ruled as a suicide. At trial, Smitch, Millard, and the Crown all presented different theories of what happened on the night of Bosma's murder. Smitch and Millard each attempted to blame the other for the shooting. Smitch contended that he was actually in a separate vehicle following behind Bosma and Millard, testifying that Millard shot Bosma while they were together in Bosma's truck. Millard's lawyer, Nadir Sachek, argued that all three men were in Bosma's vehicle, with Millard driving, Bosma in the front passenger seat, and Smitch in the back seat behind him. According to this version, during the ride, Smitch pulled out a gun and told Bosma they intended to steal the vehicle. A struggle ensued and Bosma was shot by accident. Millard did not testify during the trial, but has repeated this version of events in interviews since. Smitch strongly denied this version of events at trial. The Crown contended that both Smitch and Millard were in the vehicle and participated in the killing. The Crown never definitively proved which of the men fired the gun. As long as both had participated in the planning and execution of the crime, both could be charged with first-degree murder regardless of who actually pulled the trigger. On June 17, 2016, the two men were convicted of first-degree murder in Bosma's killing and were sentenced to life imprisonment, with no parole eligibility for 25 years. What happened to Bosma, a loving father, a caring husband and a good Christian man, is indeed very sad and shows the extent of depravity that can exist in some humans. It is indeed a great loss for the society. This brings us to the end of today's episode. Until next time, stay safe.